Alright. Okay. So today we'll be playing a new game that has been sitting in my library for quite some time. It's called MMM, Murder Most Misfortunate. And as you can probably tell by the name, it's a murder mystery. And I love a good murder mystery. Right, so let's get started. Real-time mystery. When enabled, you will have to solve the mystery within a limited time period. A clock will appear in the top right corner during sections where this time limit is counting down. This option is included for those who like tension. No, I would like to take my time actually. So let's go. It's good that developers allowed players to choose. Left click on this text or press the space bar to proceed. Click on the right to have the game proceed automatically. Press escape to access volume and text speed settings. Use the scroll wheel when hovering over this text box to see what was previously said. Right.
My dear Misfortune, I hope this letter finds you well. I did so enjoy our little discussion of the work of Guy de Mauvaisier the last time we met.
Is the audio okay? Maybe I should increase it a bit. Right.
I would like to cordially invite you to an intimate gathering of mine on the evening of the 27th. We will be celebrating my recent acquisition of a rather unique historical property, and I think you are just the one to properly appreciate it. I look forward to your RSVP in the affirmative. Most sincerely yours, Prince Titanico.
It was at an art auction, I think, that I first met Prince Titanico. He seemed to think the world of himself. I, quite frankly, thought him a bit of a bore. But if I only accepted social invitations from people I thoroughly approved, I wouldn't dine out very often.
Manor grounds. So we're
I
there.
stepped onto the curb from my limo and laid eyes on the place for the first time. Gothic gargoyles loomed ominously over the old house, and creeping vines wound their way up its walls, as though trying to strangle it. The prince had been right. It really was to my taste.
Really?
Good evening, ma'am. May I have your name?
Wow. What kind of butler is this? His tummy's out. He looks more like a bouncer than a butler. Although, I suppose they do technically have similar jobs, I guess.
Ugh, this hulking thug, on the other hand,
Yeah, see? Even she called him a thug.
Fortune. Misfortune.
Misfortune,
Is
ha!
Miss a first name or a title, ma'am?
Oh, I like to leave that to the imagination. Now you must be the butler, so why don't you buttle on and show me inside? The evening is a bit damp, I dare say.
No, ma'am. I'm not a butler. Just a valet.
Oh, wow.
My name is Klops.
Oh my, what a terrible shame. Well, butler, or valet, you do open doors, don't you?
Yes, ma'am. Right this way.
He doesn't seem very happy. Oh, what the hell happened
From
here?
the cobwebs in the corners and the dust on the railings, it was obvious that the house had been abandoned for some time.
Is this game fully voiced?
Some high society guests might have been insulted to be invited to a venue in such ill repair, but it didn't bother me. I realized that the house had been preserved as it was for the effect.
What effect?
Misfortune has arrived.
Ah, Misfortune, good evening. There are refreshments on the side table. Please do help yourself.
And this guy looks like a wizard.
Why, thank you. So, are you the butler? Or are you going to tell me you're just, I don't know, the concierge?
I think he's a guest.
Butler? No, 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 no. I'm not a servant. I am a close friend and trusted advisor to our dear prince. The Grand Magus of his court, if you will. My name is Horatio.
Grand
Charmed,
Vegas.
I'm sure.
My dear Misfortune, how are you, darling?
Ha!
It's
Mrs.
so
Peacock.
good to see you
She
again.
looks like Mrs. Peacock with all that purple.
Comtesse de Clecitra. Yes, it's been just ages, hasn't it? I should have known you to be here. You're never one to miss an event on the social circuit.
I dare say I needed something to cheer me up after my late husband's funeral. And an evening like this is just the thing.
Let's ask about your husband.
Of course. I was so sorry to hear about your husband. This is your 4th time a widow, if I'm
Wow.
not mistaken.
That sounds highly suspicious.
Quite so. And for you, 9, I believe?
Oh, wow. That's even more suspicious.
Ah, yes. They just keep dropping dead, the poor dears. It's so hard to find a good man with stamina these days.
Oh my, should I be worried? Perhaps you've been cursed.
Me? Cursed? Nonsense. I seem to be doing just fine. But maybe I am bad luck.
Considering you've had 9 husbands, I would suppose you are bad luck to them. As we
Let me
met.
see. What exactly was it that we last saw each other? It must have been at the Emperor's ball.
Heavens, yes! Wasn't that quite the affair? Were you there when one of the waiters spilled a tray of champagne all over Duchess Reese's dress?
Ooh, that could not have ended well.
Oh, yes. That was positively scrumptious, wasn't it? I mean, a shame about the dress, of course. I heard she had it made just for the ball. Such a pity.
Well, given how many people come out nowadays, it was bound to happen to someone. I even heard the poor servant say he was sure he felt someone in the crowd give him a little shove. Can you imagine?
Oh yes, yes I can.
Surely not. These are high lords and ladies we're talking about. No doubt the man is just making excuses for his clumsiness.
I'm not sure whether she truly believes this or she's just playing along. In which case, she probably knows who did it.
You're probably right. Just an unlucky accident, I'm sure.
I have a feeling it was her. Mrs. Peacock, Comtessa.
Ah, Misfortune, welcome. I'm so delighted that you could come. I trust Horatio has been keeping you entertained.
This guy, Tuxedo Mask. Tuxedo Mask is the prince. Titanico? Or is it Titanico?
Oh, yes. La Comtesse and I were just scandalizing your court jester. Or was he a wizard?
That was a good one.
In any case, scandalizing him with our intimate marriage details.
Of course you were. So tell me, what do you think of the house? I must admit, when I first came into this little period piece, I immediately thought of you.
It seems melancholy, mysterious, and maybe just a little macabre. So, yes, I quite like it so far.
Macabre. I've always pronounced it as macabre. Macabre. Carb.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear it. I will take you all on a more detailed tour shortly, but we are still waiting for more guests to arrive.
Of course. Can't be a good whodunit if we have very little suspects.
And what timing! Here they are now.
Miss Charisse and Miss Leah have arrived, sir.
Are you sure you're not the butler?
Is that the Charisse? The industrial heiress? The one who's been throwing all those charity balls ever since she came into her fortune?
Sounds like a good
The
person,
very same.
but you can never
My
tell.
beautiful Charisse, please come in. Without you, this place is dark and drab, but your radiance rekindles it anew.
You're too kind.
He definitely has a way with
Oh
words.
my! I had heard she was seeing someone, but I never imagined it was him.
Prince?
Indeed. This party just got a little more interesting.
And this must be Leah, the girlhood friend of whom you speak so very highly.
Looks like more common person compared to all these rich people.
Yeah, nice place you got here. If you like entertaining dead people.
Dead people? Yeah, I assure you, fair lady, you are perfectly safe here.
Huh.
I think it was a critique of the decor, not of our safety.
Leah doesn't mean it. It's a lovely house. Really.
On the contrary, Miss Leah may be more right than she knows. Until recently, this mansion was the property of the Lee family. Perhaps you know of them.
Oh, yes, who doesn't? A distinguished family of the nobility with a respected pedigree and a long history of public service and political influence.
So, short version, some stuffy old
Of your rich
people.
people. That's a very nice way to put it, actually.
Almost all of the estates out here, away from the city, were owned by old families. But many have had to sell over the years. It must be a bit sad for them, leaving all that history behind.
Indeed, and especially so for the Lees. Theirs is a tale of tragedy, and it ends as they so often do, in sorrow and blood.
Nice timing.
Come, the house itself will tell its share of the tale.
Wait, why did this guy suddenly change his pose pointing upwards? Where there's smoke,
This
there's
is the
fire.
smoking room. Did the Lee family use this as a quiet place to relax after their evening meals, I wonder? Or was this the proverbial smoke-filled room where secret deals would be struck and the fates of nations decided?
I think it's probably the form.
My attention was drawn to a curio cabinet on one side
Maybe.
of the room. Some of the items within rather struck my fancy.
Yeah, there's this knife here, of course, but this is kind of
This cabinet. Are these items originals?
I believe so. I have endeavored to change as little as possible about the house since acquiring it. The Lees were well known as eclectic collectors.
collect.
They also say that sorcery ran strongly in the Lee family, you know.
This guy has a thing for magic.
great. As if we didn't have enough reason to think this place was owned by a bunch of creepers.
Come now. Surely a smart little girl like you doesn't put any stock in old superstitions.
Magic and superstitions, no. Weird and creepy people, on the other hand, are plenty real.
And there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4 here.
No need to worry, young lady. You're among good company here.
And you are the weirdest.
We will have time to look around in greater detail later, I assure you. For the moment, follow me, if you would. They called this the king bedroom, home to the master of the house.
Huh.
Now, it is as you see it, empty and forlorn, as it waits for a new master to take the place of the old.
Nope, Leah's busy with.
It feels so cold.
Considering it's raining outside, no, I'm not surprised.
Milady, I can call for Klops to bring you a sweater.
And while he's at it, perhaps also a textbook on metaphorical versus literal language.
You are so kind, but I'm fine. It's just the atmosphere of this place.
The Lees were among our most powerful families before the Imperial Revolution. But like most of the old guard at the time, they chose the losing side. In many ways, the family never recovered.
They certainly never recovered financially at the very least. Thus the sale of this very house.
I don't like her.
It's almost as if old money runs out if you're not smart with it. Huh, who'd have thought?
Quite so. But at least the house has gone to those who can appreciate its history.
Care about yourself, aren't you? Oh, photos are all scratched up.
This is the Queen bedroom, and it has a fascinating story.
Really?
It is said that the famous senator Lamika Lee herself met her end in this very room during the final days of the revolution.
Ouch.
Yeah, I remember learning about that. She was one of the staunchest supporters of the Old Republic.
And she was killed here? In her own bedroom? That's so terrible.
By all accounts, she did not go down without a fight. Revolutionary soldiers had stormed the grounds, but none who came in here survived.
Then who killed her?
They even say that she sustained herself for days on the blood of the soldiers who kept coming for her.
That is definitely.
Well, points for ingenuity. I'll grant her that.
But that was all a long time ago. There wouldn't still be any blood left here now, or anything.
This is future scene of.
Really? With all the red, it's rather difficult to say, isn't it? Who knows how much of it might have soaked into the floor, the walls, the bed.
Oh, that's just creepy. Didn't they clean up afterwards?
You are right, my darling Charisse. It is all long past. A good tale for a night of ghost stories, perhaps. But thankfully, these are happier times.
I wonder about dining hall. Really big dining hall.
And
What is
here
that?
we have the dining hall.
What
I
was this
see
white
that
thing?
Klops has left some tea and coffee on the table for us.
Pops is definitely
And
a
orange
butler.
juice too, I hope. I'm running rather low. All this dry air, you know?
Your glass is too.
I'll see to it, sir.
For me, just a spot of black coffee would be wonderful.
This concludes our formal tour of the estate, but our evening is far from over.
Just 3 rooms?
Tonight, my friends, is more than just a housewarming party.
It's a murder party.
Before the night is done, I have a very special announcement to make to you all.
One of you will die.
Don't worry, my dear.
Right, just a second.
You are safe.
Be right
with
back.
me.
Alright, let's continue.
Thank you. I was just a bit startled.
Oh, heavens, yes! The light's going out! What horror! I dare say I may faint myself, delicate flower that I am.
Misfortune is kind of an ass herself.
Flower? A noxious weed, perhaps?
Please, Misfortune, allow me. I've got you now.
Huh.
Oh, what would we do without you? On second thought, you can unhand me. I seem to be quite alright.
And he seems to be quite an idiot.
Good, good. Because there's nothing to be worried about. It's just a little blackout.
Would you be so good as to check the breaker then, my dear Horatio?
Yes, of course. My talents will shed some light on all of us in no time.
Yes, yes, yes.
I absolutely adore these old homes, but they do so often have problems with the wiring, don't they?
Excuse me, boss. Sir, there's a telephone
Boss.
call for you.
A call for me? Here? How mysterious.
How
You
mysterious.
must excuse me, my dear guests. Klops will fetch some candles for you so you can look around while Horatio works his magic on the lighting. I will return very shortly.
Perhaps not. We've still yet to find the dead body.
I wandered back to the king bedroom by myself to take a closer look at some of the decor.
Right, so let's explore. Oh, okay.
The elaborate carvings on the wooden bedpost intrigued me. Spirits and demons of all sorts circled and surrounded any lord who might sleep in this bed.
Really.
Was this preferable, I wondered, than sleeping in the arms of Lamicali, blood drinker as she was rumored to be? The air in the old house was still and thick with dust. But even had there been a draft, I doubt the black drapes by the room's window would have stirred.
Must be
Even
heavy.
I was surprised by how thick and heavy the material was. No sunlight would have pierced its way into this room against its occupant's wishes. That much was certain.
Sounds like the perfect place for vampire.
Looks like our court magician has managed to conjure back a little light for us after all.
Yep, yep. Oh, okay. So,
Had these
shelf.
books on the shelf belonged to the Lee family as well? Curious, I skimmed a few of the titles. A History of the Republic, Genealogy of the Great Families,
How to Train Killer Bats.
Genghis Khan and the 21 Balloons.
What?
All dreadfully dull classics, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm getting convinced about the Dracula vampire thing.
I simply adore old chandeliers, especially the ones that come crashing down unexpectedly on the heads of people I don't like.
Yow.
Modern light fixtures just don't have that same potential.
Which is why I prefer modern light.
I'd hope that by taking a closer look at the ruined portrait, I might be able to discern who had been pictured. I could imagine no shortage of delicious reasons why a lord's portrait might be disfigured in a house such as this.
For example, a vampire?
Shredded by a bitter servant when the master was thought absent. Savaged by an angry child who never quite lived up to expectations. Alas, the portrait seemed more a victim of old age than of some crime of passion, and of the face, I could make out nothing at all.
Maybe it was meant
At
to be
last
that
I
way.
found you, Misfortune. You need to come right away. Please.
Okay, I'm starting to like Klops.
Whatever is the matter? You look like you've seen a ghost with that one eye of yours.
Probably close enough.
There's no time to waste, miss. You should see for yourself.
Right, I'm gonna guess it's either Horatio or the prince. What was his name? Titan something.
Gathering my skirts, I hurried after the hulking butler, valet, back to the hall where we had first arrived.
She's definitely the butler.
From the urgency in his pace and in his voice, I knew that something had happened. But still...
Ah. So it is the prince.
It was our host, Prince Titanico.
Titanico.
He was dead. That alone wouldn't scare me. I was no stranger to dead bodies.
Why is that? Ouch, the leg. He broke his leg, he got stabbed. He's wearing glove. Was he wearing glove earlier? And here looks a bit weird. It's too bad. I kinda liked him.
But from the way he was lying, it was clear that his death was no accident. He'd been murdered. And that meant that someone in the mansion was the murderer.
Yep, it definitely does. Loading? That's a pretty slow loading. Game has been saved. Alright. I've not saved the game.
I found the rest of the ladies. Now, Klops, what is this all about?
Is that a body? Here! Oh, positively horrid!
Huh.
Ugh! Everyone, shield your eyes! This is not a sight for fair sensibilities.
Do you not recognize your host?
The other guests stood in the doorway opposite myself and Klops. My eyes fell on our oh-so-sensitive ingenue, Charisse. If ever there was a time to faint for real, this was it. But she didn't. She just stared into the room, her eyes wide, glassy, and unblinking.
Suspicious.
Somebody needs to call the police!
Yes, ma'am. Right away.
It'll take them a while. We're ways out of the city.
We shouldn't touch anything. Let's all go back to the dining room and wait for the police to arrive.
Is no one interested to know who that body belonged to?
No,
What?
we can't just sit and wait. We need to investigate. We need to see the truth with our own eyes.
Aha, so she's also a detective.
I'm with you on that, Sherry.
Well, if our precocious little darlings are going to be poking about, I'm certainly not going to be left out.
If you insist, then.
My dears, please do be very careful.
We won't disturb anything, Comtessa. I promise.
That is not what I meant. It could be that whoever did this has not gone far.
She seemed convinced that it's someone from the outside.
Oh. Surely it was just some villain who has since fled the scene.
That's probably not the case.
I'll keep an eye out, sir.
Ha
Just
ha ha
nobody
ha.
wander far, you understand?
Keep an eye out because he only has one eye. I'm surprised no one blamed him yet.
Perhaps it would have been more comforting to believe the culprit was some stranger, a shadow in the night that was now long gone. But it just wouldn't have fit the evening's theme, now would it? I had a hunch that there was something more afoot in the old manor that night, and I certainly wasn't going to trust anyone else to properly figure it out.
Dining hall. Yeah, see this? What is this?
No, what a tragedy. What a cruel twist of fate. And to think, tonight was meant to be an evening of joy and making merry.
I'm not exactly sure
This
that
looks like
joy
someone's
is the
picture.
word I pick for an evening in this house. But I'll admit, I was never expecting anything like this.
It was such a monstrous sight. Do you think Miss Leah and Miss Charisse will be all right?
All right. They looked healthy enough to me.
No, I mean, do you think they'll be distraught? You, if you don't mind me saying, are a woman of the world, Misfortune. But they are so young, so pure, like a newly bloomed flower that has only seen sunlight, never knowing that there is also night and all the horrors that it hides.
I think you're being a little melodramatic.
A rose, by any other name, can still prick you quite nastily if you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly.
I beg your pardon?
Never mind, my dear Horatio.
About the prince.
Horatio, how long had you known our dear departed host?
Oh, so they did know it was the prince.
I have, well, had been his closest friend and confidant for many years.
And you don't seem too distraught.
Oh yes, the grand magus of his court, didn't you say?
Yes, he did.
I did, but alas, though I can conjure a parlor trick or two, I could do little to foresee this unseemly doom.
Well, you seem sinister enough.
Indeed. Unseemly. Just the word I would have used. Presumably you would know then, if the prince had any enemies.
I assume he does.
A man like the prince always does, but none of them are here.
Maybe
I
except
would say
you?
The evidence suggests the contrary.
Surely you don't mean to suggest that it was one of us. After all, didn't you say that all your husbands just died from bad luck? Perhaps it was that.
It takes more than just bad luck to get stabbed, pushed. I assume he was pushed down a higher floor to get that kind of a twisted leg.
Yes, quite. Bad luck.
Where were you?
Where were you when this absolutely dreadful business happened?
I imagine I must have still been in the basement, or very close to it. I'd only just got the lights back on, and I was coming up the stairwell when Klops found me.
Uh-huh.
Was he the one to discover the body then?
That's a very good question.
I believe so. he asked me to help find all the guests, which leads me to cleverly deduce that I was the first one he encountered after the gruesome discovery.
Ah, clever indeed. Nothing gets past you, does it, dear?
Ahem. Well, I wouldn't go that far. But where were you, Misfortune?
I was in the king bedroom.
Alone?
Of
As
course.
it happens, yes. I've always been the sort to need a little bit of me time every so often, you know.
Well, I
Could
do
have been in
understand that.
danger.
I would not have stayed alone in this kind of house, in that kind of room.
Oh, horrors, you're right. If only I was clairvoyant, I might even have been worried at the time, too.
Well, never fear. You're safe with me now.
Courage, you're
Yes,
just annoying.
I'm sure I am.
The announcement.
Prince Titanico mentioned an announcement
Titanico.
that he wished to make this evening. Do you know what that was all about?
Yes. Or at least, I think so.
Do tell.
You mean you're not sure?
You must understand, the prince was a man with a flair for the dramatic. He rather liked his secrets, and hence his surprises.
That I don't doubt. In fact, I wouldn't put it past him to have staged his own death, just to leave us all in suspense.
That's a fair point. Did anyone actually check the dead body?
My dear friend did have rather unusual tastes, but I fear in this case it was not part of the plan.
I see. So, are you going to tell me then?
Yes, please.
About what?
The announcement.
About the announcement, of course.
No, I think not.
Why not?
Oh?
As I said, he liked his secrets. Telling you now, it just wouldn't be what he'd want.
Yeah, that is kind of suspicious, actually.
Well, if you do so insist
Huh.
on being obstinate, I suppose I will have to make do on my own.
And now she's very clearly annoyed.
A true magician never reveals his secrets, Misfortune, nor those of his friends.
I do believe it's about time I took a bit of a stroll.
Yes, let's leave this
Do be careful,
Grand
Misfortune,
Magus behind.
and please, if you have need of my talents,
No, I won't.
Worry not, my dear. If the lights happen to go out again, I'll know just who to call.
I'd rather use a candle. You may now examine your inventory, the luggage icon in the top left of the screen. Ah! Oh, there's a map. Let's see, we were at the dining hall. So, I think, let's check the body. Main hall. And that is where the body is, and I assume he fell
As
down
best I
from up
knew,
here.
Our mysterious murder had happened here, in the hall. At the very least, I thought the body warranted a closer look. Luckily for me, I was no stranger to corpses. Funerals for 9 different husbands will do that, you know.
So that's what she meant.
13, 14, 15.
It seems I'm not alone here. But what is the poor girl doing? She's just pacing back and forth and muttering to herself. Have the evening's events already broken her fragile little mind?
Actually, I think she knows exactly what she's doing. Let's talk to Cherise.
My dear little Miss Cherise, what in the world are you doing?
I'm counting.
That's
So
pretty
good to see They
obvious.
still teach that in grade school these days. How marvelous.
I think the timing seems off. I need to check again.
Uh-huh. That's interesting.
On
What
second
timing?
thought, maybe they don't teach it so well after all.
Timing?
I almost think I'll regret asking. But darling, what timing is off?
It's Mr. Klops, the butler.
Valet.
Oh, yes, of course.
Well, what about him then?
I saw him go into
So
this room when the lights were out.
she suspects the butler, the valet, I guess.
I see. Is that when he found the body, do you think?
I think so. He came running out looking for Mr. Horatio. I don't think he saw me.
Ah,
Oh, well, you can't blame the poor man for that. He only sees half as much as the rest of us. But just what does that have to do with all your pacing and counting?
that must mean that she was on his blind side.
I think he was in here too long.
Really?
I beg your pardon. Too long?
I've been timing how long it takes to walk from the door to the body. It doesn't add up. I'm sure he was in here longer. Maybe an extra 20 seconds.
Well,
That's a
aren't
pretty
you
long time.
delightfully clever little girl? Maybe you should have been a detective rather than a fabulously wealthy industrial heiress.
Why can't she be both?
Oh, it's nothing, really. It's just... well, it's not my
Really?
first time being around a murder case. That's all. I guess that helps a little.
I wonder if there's any other game beside this in this series. If this is a series. Another murder?
I'm sorry, my dear, but did you say this isn't your first murder?
Yes. I mean, no. I mean, it wasn't
Yeah, she caught
my
that one.
murder. But I was there when it happened.
My. I never would have imagined. It must make for an absolutely thrilling story, I'm sure.
Please, you must forgive me, but I really don't want to talk about it.
I guess we kinda have to make her talk about
Of
it
course.
later down the road.
How rude of me to pry. I'm sure the experience must have been just ghastly for you. But, oh my, you don't suppose it could have something to do with our current predicament, do you?
That is a good question.
No. No, I don't think so. It was a long way away. And the killer was stopped. And besides, except for Leah and I, nobody here was involved.
Ah, okay. This is
Well,
interesting.
that's a relief. It would be just awful if there was a serial killer following you around, or something like that. It must just be coincidence, then, that people keep dropping dead wherever you go.
What about your 9 dead husbands?
I suppose that it must be.
Actually, can I save? Is there a way to save? Oh, there it is. Game has been saved. Right, so I have to stop here for now. But we'll definitely continue this soon. It's actually quite interesting so far. Right, so we'll stop here for now.